let's face it, part of the reason why we had so much energy in the 2008 campaign was because we understood that we had seen a decade where that basic bargain wasn't being met. Families were working harder and harder, but their incomes were actually stagnating, while the cost of everything from health care to college were going up. We went from a surplus to a record deficit because of tax cuts we didn't pay for and because of 2 wars that we put on a credit card. And it all culminated in the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. So we understood that restoring that basic American idea, that if you work hard, you can get ahead, that is at the heart of the middle class, the heart of who we are. We knew restoring that was not going to be easy, and it would take more than 1 year and take more than 1 term, and it would probably take more than 1 president. And that was before the middle class was hammered by this crisis that robbed too many of our friends and neighbors of their jobs and their homes and their savings and pushed the American dream even further out of reach for too many workers. So what's standing in our way is not the lack of technical solutions. It's not the lack of ideas that will help move us forward. What's holding us back right now is politics in Washington. It's a stalemate. It's a stalemate that results from the uncompromising view of this idea that the only thing we can do is go back to the same top-down economics that didn't work and got us into this mess in the first place. I mean, look, Mr. Romney and his allies in Congress, they've got a very simple set of ideas when it comes to the economy. So Virginia, I've got a different plan for America. 4 years ago, I promised to cut middle-class taxes, and I kept that promise by a total of about $3,600 for the typical family. So now I want to keep taxes exactly where they are on the first $250,000 of everybody's income. So if your family makes under $250,000, like 98% of Americans do, you won't see your income taxes increase by a single dime next year. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be in the other 2% of Americans, I fall in that category, some of you do too, all we're asking is that we contribute a little bit more so that we can pay down this deficit and invest in things like education that will help us grow. And keep in mind, look, we're going to make sure government does its part because there's still waste in government. We've already made $1 trillion worth of cuts. We can do more streamlining. We can make government more efficient and more consumer-friendly, but I'm not going to pay for a massive new tax cut for millionaires and billionaires by gutting investments like education and infrastructure and basic science and research and the safety net and Medicare, those things that have always kept the middle class strong. All I'm asking is that we go back, for folks like me, for the top 2%, go back to the rates we paid under Bill Clinton. And by the way, if you remember, that was when our economy created nearly 23 million new jobs, the biggest budget surplus in history, and a whole lot of millionaires to boot.